In terms of markers, is it bad to have multiple positive markers, multiple bad markers? Is it
I have
easier to have like two?
I have two positive markers. So I have my positive marker, and then I have my release command.
Uh-huh.
So the way that I drill my dogs these days, um, if I'm having a dog work, and this is regardless of tool, so I'll have a dog, for the first couple lessons, I mark with sit, reinforce by picking up the food. As soon as their little butt hits the ground, I mark immediately with their release, break, or okay, or whatever. And I give them food. There's no wait. It's just sit, break, sit, break, sit, break. Once they get comfortable with that, I start putting delayed releases into the mix. So sit, and I'm still marking, but now I'm marking with good. But good is not
Hmm.
break. So if you move for good, I'm going to mark that with no, put you back, and blah, blah, blah. So I've got good and I've got my release command. And I think it's important to have both because you want to be able to let a dog know that they're on the right track still, but you're not done yet. Because when the dog is
Right.
at a high level of training, you can ask all kind, hey, come sit down, come sit, heel. Okay, break. Here's your treat.
Right.
So that's how I run things.
Right. When I do marker training, I'll do marker training in like, especially when we start getting into like advanced food obedience. There's 4 general ones that we use. So we'll use like a terminal marker, right? This is actually a Michael Ellis concept I learned many years ago, and it works wonderfully. Terminal marker, which just means the end, which would be like your yes or your okay or your break, right? And the duration marker, which is your good. Like, good job. Keep doing what you're doing. Good. And you could do that anytime you're practicing a stay or a bed command. Good means stay on whatever you're doing. There's your no reward marker, which is going to be more of like, yeah, didn't do it right. Guess again. Right. So it'll be like a, or
like a warning.
Yep. And then you can have your verbal punisher, right? Your verbal punisher is like, hey, or no, or out, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that marker that tells the dog, you fucked up, you need to stop that right now, right? Whatever it is. So you kind of just have it's almost like you have 4 markers for each quadrant of the operant conditioning scale, pretty much is what it feels like.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And so you kind of give the dog context. It's like playing like warm, like hot or cold.
Right.
You're getting warmer. No, you're getting colder now,
Yeah.
So it definitely does help.
And that's another reason why I say that your social cues need to be on point too, because words can easily just kind of be words to the dog. But if you give it a little more life, for example, let's say if I've got, my release, my terminal marker, right, is break. And my duration marker, just letting him know he's on the right track is good. I'm not going to be like sit, good, down, good, break. If I really want to push the dog through something, sit, good, down, good. And maybe I'll slowly build up if I need that extra energy, or maybe if the dog's already like hyper excitable and me giving them too much excitement is more likely to make them mess up. But for the purposes of training, I need to drill that. I need the dog to be good even when they're excited. Then I'll excite them on purpose. Sit, good, down, good boy. And I'll just slowly kind of amp it up. And I can see the dog in down like this, and then eventually I'll release. But the same thing goes, like he was saying, for the other half of the, so, you can have kind of like a, I consider it more like a warning, like it's not quite, I'm not necessarily going to correct you. You haven't merited an actual correction, but you're about to mess up. Don't do it type thing. A no, a straight up no is like, you knew better. Don't do that. And I'm going to remember marker reinforcer. So every no, for me anyway, does get reinforced. Even if the dog fixes it real quick, they come out of down into sit and I go no, and they plop back down, I'm still going to correct it just to keep my no consistent, but if a dog is like in place and my mom were to come and visit me and my dogs don't move out of place, but they're like, grandma, I'm going to be like, hey, watch out. I'm kind of letting them know, like, don't do it. But that's exactly where a little more social cue helps out, hey, and they're like, oh, my bad. Okay, good. Whereas just sitting there with like a monotone A may not have done the same thing. Or sometimes it'll even confuse the dog. You say A or you say no, and the dog gets up, and come play with you.
Right.
So make sure that your social stuff is just so, you're either kind of pressing or you're inviting, and you learn which is which and when it's valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps a lot. I think it's really fun once a dog understands your markers, how they respond to it. Like I was teaching a lab place and I had a basketball and I was dribbling it and I threw it and she put her paw down, and I said, ah, and she just like ran right back. And it's like little moments like that where you're like, oh wow, like she's
She
really
gets me.
learning. Yeah, exactly.
It's so funny, and especially the cute little puppies. Just don't forget to mark that when they get back on the bed with good or whatever you're, to keep that consistent, So little moments like that. It's funny when we talked to Tyler, and Brent was just talking about his e-collar video. One of my favorite things about his e-collar video, it was an e-collar place video that he was working. And my favorite part of the whole video was, like you talked about, a lot of younger trainers can be real trigger happy. The dog slowly starts to walk off the bed. They gets 2 paws off the bed. And he just says, very calm, no. And he just walks into the dog's space. No e-collar, no nothing, just walk. And so naturally the dog's like, and gets back on the bed, marks with good. No correction needed. He goes for another few reps. Dog does not make that same mistake again. So, with e-collar and stuff like that, it is easy to accidentally turn pressure up too much. And then the dog gets worse because they're stressed. It's not because they're being a dick, but because now they're getting worse from the trainer's perspective. Trainers like, this motherfucker's being an asshole. I'm going to turn my pressure up, and then it's worse, and then it's worse. And, really understanding the reason why an and no both exist is because when you're working dogs from now on, e-collar, no e-collar, whatever, really honestly ask yourself, so the dog messed up, whatever they're supposed to do, that much is clear. Did they know where they went wrong, or was it just a mistake? There's a difference between a bad choice and like the dog doesn't know any better. That's why he's here, So if the dog sits and I go, good, and somebody walks by and the dog pops up really quick, I'm like, no, sit. But I'm not necessarily going to slam you with the e-collar. Now, if a dog like lunges at somebody, that's a correction, right? But sometimes it's just a learning moment. Oh, you know what? Don't do it that way. Actually, sit back down. Good boy. There you go. And keep those things in mind. Does he know what you're doing, or does he not? Yeah, it's hard. Letting the dog be able to make the mistakes so that you can teach, rather than just expecting it. Well, mistakes, like in my opinion, you should let a dog make their mistakes. But what I was just telling him, Brent, was there's a difference between a mistake that's a genuine mistake, like a dog who was new to place command gets up because they're excited because you're squeaking a toy. That's a mistake. A dog who was reactive, who you taught a really solid heel, who decides to lunge at someone, that's a correctable, It's a mistake, I guess, in a sense, but it's also a choice that is a very dangerous choice for the dog. So that one has to be followed with a correction in order to create that sort of inhibition. Don't do that. The stove is hot. Don't touch, right? So you learn how to play the game and learn the difference between it was a mistake, but not every mistake deserves a correction. And sometimes technically it counts as a correction if you're marking with the corrective, but sometimes just the social pressure is enough. And I'm not going to pile on top of you with my e-collar or my prong collar or whatever. If I feel like you got the hint, it's my job to correct the behavior and fix it, but not more. I'm not going to overstress this dog. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, I feel like I got a lot of homework to do. A lot to learn.
Yeah, man. I think that's if you're gonna make. I mean, honestly, if you come down to LA, man, you, me, and Corey, we all can get together. Yeah. We can chit chat about dog training, because I think it's something we're all really passionate about, and we're all fortunate to have good mentors, and but whether those mentors were in person or virtual. You know what I mean? Like to be able to, if the knowledge is out there, man, you can seek it. And really your character, how much hard work you put in, your determination to being better and getting better, helping your clients, helping your dogs, perfecting your craft, like we talk about it all the time. Like, there are people who've trained dogs the same way for 40 years and they're content. Me, my ADD, I'm just like, what's next? Okay, what's next? Yeah. Okay, so it forced me to learn this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and right. And so I wanted to see kind of the whole big picture of it all, and it was confusing. I even told Sean O'Shea the other day. I was like, thanks for bringing me back to basics, because I started with Caesar. I completely left the whole, leadership skill and all that stuff. And I put so much focus on technique and how to get the dog to look cool and how to, get people to be really impressed by their dogs. And then, I knew about leadership and I knew about the job that people had to do, but just simply talking to a trainer just reminded me and lit the spark under my butt again to just put your focus on your leadership teaching, man. Because that used to be my thing for years. And then I got bored of it and I left. right?
Mhm,
And then
yeah.
so as I'm kind of cycling through different phases of my own career, you start creating more of like, okay, a list of what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
What is important to you as a trainer? What is important to you in your career? And you got to go through the growing pains, man. You got to go through, those dogs you couldn't train. The difference is when you work with a mentor and you say, hey, I'm having trouble with this dog, they go, I got your back.
Yeah, let me show you something.
Yeah.
Let me show you something.
Right.
Okay. So that's the benefit. If you really want to develop a high level of skill, work under someone way better than you.
Right. Yeah,
That's the
definitely.
bottom line.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean. He does have this. That's what I've been saying just forever, I feel like, is, there are like dog trainer scholars like Michael Ellis, Ian Dunbar, and Tyler Muto and stuff like that. But then there are guys who just have a way about them. The information is just so digestible, so palatable, like Sean O'Shea.
Mm-hmm.
Just easy to listen to. You can't help but love him. You know what I mean? So I would definitely take a listen. And he's also very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to undermine his actual training prowess, because he works strictly or almost strictly with reactive, anxious, and like serious dogs. So he's
easy
boiled
stuff.
Right. So he's boiled his training programs to fit just that one niche of the dog training world, but it works, man. These guys are loved like crazy, and they're doing super successful things. They're the ones who are touring around, not just here, but in the UK and stuff like that. He just wrote his 3rd book.
Wow.
They're on it. So look into Sean O'Shea with the good dog, look into Tyler Muto and all these other good guys, and get with your mentor, because, to keep it super, super short, the analogy that I always give, because it just makes sense to me personally, is the jujitsu thing. Is like, I train jujitsu, and there's so much in it, so many little things that you wouldn't think matters, like holding this way versus this way. It changes fucking everything sometimes, and you have to have just good old daily practice with people who are better than you. It doesn't matter how many videos you watch, how many books you read, because there are books, there are podcasts, there are everything on jiu-jitsu. It's such a big world. But you want to expose yourself to these different techniques. Like, I love watching Worlds and these 2 high-level black belts doing crazy shit that I don't even know the name of, But then when I get to the mats the next day with it in my brain, immediately the round timer goes off and I'm like, wait, I forgot all of that. All I really remember right now is the simple stuff that I know. And I remember just one tiny piece. Oh yeah, put your arm there, the darce is there, or whatever, so stick to the daily simple stuff and look at other things, but just don't expect it to stick in there. You have to learn it when you're ready to learn it. And it's like if that stuff is level 10 stuff, you'll get there when you're level 9, because you understand how to make that final connection. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't look, though, because sometimes you learn one thing, like I tell people all the time, I watch the same like 4 matches. They're like 5 minutes long, 6 minutes long for like 5 years. It was like 25 minutes worth of content for 5 years. And I still see new shit every single time, because I can only kind of see what my mind's ready to see. Now that I learned that one little grip,
Right.
then I'm like, oh, and then after that, he did that one little step, and so on and so on. And you just kind of, you push on systematically.
Yeah. I guess it's hard to see that when you're going through it.
It is.
That's why you have to go through it. You just have to go through it.
Yeah. Like, I understand what you're saying, but it's like I can't see the forest through the trees.
What else have you, like, what are you good at in other than this right now? Like, you play any sports? Did you do
I love basketball.
I was gonna say you're a basketball player. I heard when he was dribbling the ball around, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So you basketball. What else did you do as a kid?
As a kid, basketball. I love watching wrestling, comics. Average kid.
Cool.
Running around with the dogs. We always had dogs, so
I think that's whatever technical or physical skill you've ever learned, it's the same. It's the same. This is just, it's more complex. There's a lot more layers to it, for sure.
Yeah, it's so deep.
It's like
so vast,
it's not Mortal Kombat, it's World of Warcraft. Like, this is it's more complex.
Yeah.
And I'll give you just one last cliche, then I'll leave you alone. Because you were saying like right now you can't see the forest through the trees, and I get that. So I heard this from a friend of mine who, he was talking in the sense of there are, like, statistically 80% of all New Year's resolutions are dropped by the 2nd week of January. And the reason why is because everybody feels so motivated on New Year and they just don't on the 15th. Like, logically, what you need to do. But the middle brain aspect is just like, yeah, but I'd rather just sit here and procrastinate because that's what I know how to do. It's comfortable, But if you wait for the motivation to do the thing, it's never going to come. You have to do the thing first to
Right.
have the power later.
Yeah.
You know, there's no amount of gym shorts and dope ass Jordans and whatever you can buy to get good at basketball.
Right.
You got to get good at basketball.
Yeah.
You know, so just get into the work. Even if you don't feel like you can see it all right now, that's the point. Is it's just a step. And then after that is a step. And then after that is a step. And then one day the force is there. You know, so just get into it. Even if you feel nervous, like I know right now you can't see the outcome. You're not supposed to. Just see what you can see right now, which is a potential mentor somewhere. Find that person. And then what you'll see is I learned something, then I learned something. And what you see changes every day.
Yeah. I feel like the daycare was like me getting a taste of it just to make sure that like I did have a passion for it. And so now the mentor is like the next step of like actually getting into it and like sinking my teeth into
Time
it.
to crank that bitch up a little bit.
Yeah,
that's the fun stuff. Man.
That's leveling up, man.
Yeah.
That mushroom and Mario, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's good, man. I think you're passionate. I think you're intelligent. I think you're a good speaker. I think you have a lot of the makings of a very good dog trainer.
Yeah, you're likable. You're cool.
Yeah. One thing my trainers, don't compare yourself, and this is like for life. Don't compare yourself to your mentor. Just learn from your mentor. Look up to him, but don't try and be him right away. Right? I spent 10 years trying to be my mentor. It's still not there, but I became me in the process, which was cool. You know, like my trainers that work for me now, it's try not to be overwhelmed. Try to be inspired by people.
Because you'll never catch them because you're growing, but they're growing too.
You'll never catch them. Yeah, you'll never catch them. But
you don't want to catch them. It's all good. You know, so just keep moving is the thing. Keep pushing.
Yeah.
And keep up with us, man. Let us know. Keep us posted.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate all the time. Yeah.
No problem, man. No problem. I'll tell Corey about this.
Yeah, please do. Let him know. Tell him Mochi's doing good.
I'll let him know. He's gonna love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, man, keep us posted, man.
Well,
yeah, thank you.
Brother. Thanks for jumping on with us. We really
thanks for having me. I learned a lot.